But I do want to cover a couple of key tidbits from that for the folks who are online, and all the folks in the room, they're just going to have to suffer through it briefly. But what I wanted to mention is, like, while we were at Google I/O Connect and Google NA Connect last week, we had a wonderful time connecting with the GDGs and the GDSCs and the women tech makers, ambassadors, and the GDEs. And it was wonderful. And if you all continue to be a part of this program and eventually grow into like one of those roles, like maybe an organizer of this community or a GDE or something along those lines, then you can be a part of these great community events where everyone from the country gets together. But the main point of that was that I wanted to call out that Roya gave an excellent talk at the event that most of you missed, although I think there's a couple of people on this call that did actually get to see it. And just, can you briefly mention what it is again? And I'll post like a link to at least a tweet or something in the Slack for people.
Sure. Thank you very much for bringing it up again. I appreciate the support. When I was a student, I built a navigation assistive technology for visually impaired to navigate in an indoor scenario independently. And because me and my advisor both are from developing country, I'm from Iran and he was from India, cost was a concern. So with that in head, we built a sketch, and my talk was a walkthrough of how to accomplish each of the needs and bits of this project to make it a real product without actually exceeding the cost. And I was so honored and humbled to have so many people attending the talk and supporting me. So once again, thanks, Lucas. I appreciate it.
Great. And just to embarrass you a little more, for what is now ultimately the fourth time, only second time for people who are online, unfortunately, is the wonderful Twitter space that you were on yesterday. I'll post a link in Slack, but do you want to talk just a little bit about what that was?
Sure. And I again had the honor to participate in a Twitter space yesterday to talk about the importance of community. And I just wanted to raise the note to the fact that for me, who is living here on my own, I don't have family. I found my family through all of this community, the tech people who are like-minded. They never judged me, and they always accepted me the way I am with all of the crazy. So when I was given this opportunity, I wanted to have everybody else know that if you are by any, not just if you are immigrant, if you have any challenge, if you do not feel like you fit in your immediate community, please look around. There are always people who are like-minded you, and the tech community is one of the best ones. So thank you for accepting me, honestly.
I think that I can speak for this community in particular, that our community is much richer and flourishing since you have joined. So
thank you very much.
And my sense, like, because Roya is kind of a firecracker, like the rest of the GDG larger community is already, recognizing you as like an important contributor. So
you genuinely try to make me so embarrassed.
Okay, I just want to say, so I apologize that since this is the last event, like I want to pull people into our workspace in Slack. So I just posted these links that I mentioned, but I only posted them in the GDG Cloud Boston Slack, not in the other one. I probably will get it to the other one shortly, but we do want you to continue to be a member of our community. And so in between the events that we have, we convene on the Slack workspace there. So please check that out. But this event that Roya did, I have the link here. Let me just quickly click on it. Yesterday she did, and it was like no preparation, and I didn't know about it until pretty much the day that it was about to happen.
They told me like the night before that, and I contacted you. I was like, can you?
Yeah, she just asked me to go attend a meeting that she was supposed to be on, and so I couldn't listen to this Twitter space live because I had to go do whatever meeting that she was going to be on. But I just want to say that 909 people listened to your space, okay? And just for comparison, so everyone knows, there was a space earlier from the same series that Google runs called Between the Brackets that featured literally Joe and me, and we got 360 people who tuned in. So Roya is clearly a bigger draw, even though she doesn't realize
To
yet.
be fair, there was Roman and Anna and Danny and
You say so. I don't know. I was only listening to your stuff. I've already heard Danny's stuff a million times. But anyway, congratulations on all the stuff, and I apologize for the multiple introductions here, and now we're getting started very late. But this is the last event, so it's not. We didn't just want to go through the motions here. Like, we want to be ever present. So anyway, now we'll officially kick it off, and you guys didn't hear me. The folks who are online did not hear this, but like when I did this exact same speech like 10 minutes ago, I was like confident that everyone online can hear us because they would literally all be telling us, and that there were so many of you that reliably call us out when there's something wrong with the sound. And since no one was calling us out, we must be perfect. Then we proceeded to begin, and Linda was like, I think maybe they're starting. And I'm like, uh-oh, they definitely can't hear us. So anyway, long story short, Roya.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, for being with us for this 6-session journey, which took us about like 2 months. We are at the last session of Professional Machine Learning Engineer, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it with us. So without further ado, let's jump in. We are at week 6, and at this point, you have 695 items to figure out on the content that needs to be basically practiced. I want to point out that for the computer vision chapter, there are 6 labs that they have permission issues. I brought it up to the Quick Lab folks, and it has been actually brought up to them before, but I'm constantly complaining to them. So I will figure it out and get back to you ASAP. Aside from that, so far, I'm personally at 680, except for those 6, and I haven't had any other issues. But if you had any, please come to us and let us know, because you need to basically check marks everything to be able to finish. So one thing that in the weeks we have studied was a recommendation engine, and it would be really practical for you to know about it, given that whether you want to work in retail or if you want to work in Netflix or any other platform which has a product, you will you are required to know about recommendation system. Without getting into so much depth into it, I will just explain briefly 3 main models that you will be dealing with. The content-based model are the most popular one, one would say, and those are basically using the historical information about the user and the type of content that they have been interacting with, whether it was an purchase item or a movie or anything. And based on this historical information, you as a ML engineer would suggest the next item. Clustering is another method that puts together items that have similar characteristics. So it does not look into what the user thinks, but it just looks into the feature that each of those items have independently. And the last one is the collaborative method, which basically puts together the information about all of the user and tries to find like-minded user and people who have similar taste to offer a content or an item that one user chose to another one. So if let's look into this table for a second. In the left, I have the model type, whether these are recommended for you, others you may like, or frequently bought together. Recommended for you is what I just explained as content based. Others you may like is the collaborative base, and frequently both together is cluster. When you are working with recommended for you, this is, as I mentioned, using the historical information about the user and the feature of the content that they have been interacting with to give them suggestion about what they can do next. You can basically improve the performance of your model because these models are known for increasing the click-through rate and conversion rate. Click-through rate being increasing the chance of an item being clicked on, and conversion rate is the chance of or the probability of when a person clicks on it, make a purchase. Um, this is a little bit, I take it with a grain of salt because when you are using recommended for you and only you are using this content based method, you require information about the user itself themselves. If you do not have those sort of information, it brings up so much challenges because your history is clear and you don't have any information, so you are basically starting with nothing. In addition to that, when you want to investigate on the content, you need prior information about the content. So whether it's clustering or content based, you need some sort of prior information and annotation to know what are the features of each of these items. And then others you may like are basically using what other people think and the model thinks those people are like you to tell you, okay, this is your comfort zone. Somebody else shares a little bit of your comfort zone, but there is a part of it that is out of your comfort zone. So maybe because you share a lot with this person, maybe that part also is interesting to you. When you are working with just historical information about the user and the content, it's really easy to get stuck into the comfort zone of the user. So you are never exploring. There is nothing outside to tell the user. You are constantly sticking to the features that was important to the user and just recommending new items with the similar features. But when you are working with others you may like, or basically the collaborative methods, you are allowing the user to know what others are considering, and it expands the user taste. But at the same time, again, you require information about the user. So either you send a survey to the user initially, or you start with content base to just gain some information about the user. And the optimization objective, or basically what this model can help, is similar to the content based or recommended for you. Lastly, frequently both together. This is a method that puts aside user altogether and just focuses on the features of the item that you are interested in and tries to, in an embedded space, puts them together. So make a cluster of all of the objects that can be lookalike. A good example of that is movies, and you are trying to reduce the distance between two movies in an embedding space. So without getting without being confusing, imagine that you want to put, let's say, Shrek, Harry Potter, and Matrix in a space, right? So Shrek can be, which one is closer to each other? Shrek is in so much of a type of movies that I like. And me being 2 years
Monster
old.
movies?
Sorry?
Monster movies?
Shrek.
Oh,
No.
cartoons?
Yeah, cartoon, just
Okay.
like happy, nothing bad happens.
Yeah. No murders.
No monsters.
Oh, totally, no murders. I cry immediately. And then Matrix is to the end of the spectrum from where I can't watch anything. Like, I know something bad is happening, I'm not gonna watch it. Harry Potter falls somewhere in the middle. in my opinion, it's a little bit further toward Matrix because it's still a little bit challenging to watch for all of the deaths that happening. So if you have a user like me, if you have an item, like Finding Nemo, you want to know where to put it in this spectrum. So Finding Nemo obviously falls into the nicer side of the category.
Is that a killer whale? Am I mistaken? It's not. Okay.
No, it's a clownfish.
Cloudfish. Okay, fine.
Very
No,
small, way
it's.
smaller.
I agree with you. It goes in the same bucket as perfect.
And mathematically, sorry, what is that?
I was gonna say it's kind of scary too. Nemo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the mom at the
Yeah.
beginning. I know.
All these movies have a little bit of something in them,
True.
but it's all pretty, so you
Yeah.
don't focus on that.
And there is no gray color in them, which is for me personally is a thing. I want the movie to be bright.
Oh, that's true.
It depends when the movie was made, obviously, because
So-
during certain periods of time they didn't even have colors in the movies.
I don't watch those.
I have a friend that's like the only movies he watches because he's like a film buff.
Okay, I know that's off topic, but have you seen Charlie Chaplin? There is a baby, there is like a kid with Charlie Chaplin who goes and breaks the windows.
Charlie Chaplin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I cried with that, and that's a comedy.
There's no words.
And that baby is like lost his mom, and the mom. I'm a mess. Okay, let's get back here. So the idea was that you have this spectrum which is objective, and you are just trying to mathematically put these items together based on their features. So like similar object would fall into the same category. It allows you that when you want to offer some new movies or new item to your user, you can have this cluster offered all together, and it increases the chance that the person would go through all of them, and it would increase the revenue per order, or the amount of money that a person spends just by making one order. Another important topic that worth discussing about is hyperparameter tuning. In this series of a slide that has been offered to us by Google, there are spending so much time on learning rate. If you recall, we discussed learning rate in depth before. Learning rate is the size of the step that you are making in your feature and weight space to basically reach to a global minimum. Yes, if this is and this is a number between 0 and 1, obviously, so you never do 0 because then you are not moving at all, and 1 is too big, so quote unquote they say put 0.01 as your beginning learning rate. But if you're always go back to your model, two different methods that I wanted to mention for people who are starting their path in machine learning. And obviously we have so many experts here, so I don't mean to overstep, but they were helping me, and they are common practices in the community. Are one, start with a smaller training size and tune your model and learning rate and all of the hyperparameter for your smaller training size, and have the model train and see how your model responds, and then introduce all of your training data set. The second thing that can be helpful, especially with learning rate, is study the performance of the model in the first few epochs, and it should be something that you can handle in less than an hour, so it would not take a lot of time. Study the slope of the loss function for different learning rate, and the one that gives you the higher slope would be a better learning rate. Also, right now, TensorFlow X and TensorFlow itself, they are providing grid search and learning rate scheduler to allow you to let it to go for itself and find the best learning rate. It's also a good practice to go with Adam Optimizer. And the reason that you might want to consider Adam Optimizer is that it does not lock you with one learning rate, and it actually adapts the learning rate based on the performance of the model and the weight that it's taking. Aside from all of these tips and tricks, keep in mind that your learning rate can make or break the system. If it is too small, then your steps are too small that you never reach. So convergence can be really hard. And if it's too high, visually you can think about it as you are bouncing off this off the minimum, so you will never converge. If it is too small, you always have the slope, but you never get to a point that be like, okay, this is where I want to be. And if it's too high, you will start bouncing. It will go up and down. Even if you have a good practice with the training data set, for sure your validation data set would stay up and stay fluctuating. Okay, so that's about hyperparameter tuning. Now that is said, yes.
On the first one, in case of recommendation systems, right? There is a new stuff which is going on, which is called hybrid recommendation systems. So we take the idea of content based, and on top of it, we'll use collaborative filtering on top of it. So they use a hybrid model where there's like weighted percentages for both of the recommendation systems, and then based on the ranking of those weightages, the products are recommended to the user. Is there any way that we could somehow in Google Cloud itself say that I'm going to use this model as well as this model, and weights I'm going to vary? Let's say starting with a 50-50% and then probably able to modify it.
I know that because I went through all of the content.
Mhm.
I know the recommendation system, it actually talks about the hybrid model, the content that Google provides to you, and it brings up the hybrid model that YouTube is using, which one of them, as you mentioned, one of them pays attention to different user and one of them pays attention to content and measures. It is not like take a half of it or a percentage of it or percentage of it. It's more like take all of the content that the user might be interested in and then filter it out to content that I'm sure the user would be interested in.
Okay.
But you actually will build it in the recommendation section part of it.
Okay.
If you went through it and you still had question, come.
Could
Yes.
I add one comment?
Please.
The machine learning models that we're building are a really good match for the cloud, just because the hardware that you use is often very expensive and not something that you want to own. So it's a really good match for cloud where you pay as you go. Basically, you're renting the stuff from Google, so that's a good match in itself. Like it's GPUs and all kind of fancy stuff that you may not want to own. Second thing is that I think you mentioned grid search
Yes.
as a way of doing the hyperparameter tuning. A lot of those steps can be run in parallel, so that makes it even far better match for cloud, because in the cloud there's no penalty for running things in parallel that can be run in parallel, right? Whereas on premise, if you want to run in parallel, it means you have to have that much more stuff that you have to buy, right? So it's like doubly good to run this hyperparameter tuning and all this learning things in the cloud. It's like a really good use case for cloud computing because it's a very bursty workload.
Definitely. Can somebody say if you are hearing Norbert or
Yes.
they heard?
No, I mean,
Online?
I don't
Yes.
know.
Are they hearing you or?
They were last time.
Okay, good.
We hear you.
Because if you are not hearing, so we have
Online,
Norbert
we
here
can
who
hear you.
is an expert in cloud computing, and he brought up the point that in the current era, it doesn't make sense to own a GPU because it's easier to basically train and use all of these models on the cloud. And in addition to that, because cloud allows you to do parallel computing, then you are better off if you are using the cloud. I-
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fine.
And just to second it, I'm convinced that in the early future, it would not make sense for people to have GPUs to build something. It's really easier to practice if you are just using the cloud.
Unless you're a gamer.
Obviously, they have their own word. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, I have
Yes.
a question. The example you have given, right, the Finding Nemo and the chef, they both will be under a kind of a same recommendation. Uh, like if you're watching Chef, you'll be getting a Finding Nemo recommendation.
Yes.
It's because it's analyzing the principal components, right? Uh, which is like nicer movie. Like Chef don't have any kind of a violence, so Finding Nemo don't have a violence. So they are both getting into uh, one kind of a thing as a recommendation for us.
That is correct.
Now we'll be having so many features in a movie, right?
Correct.
How can we know that these are the principal components? Like being nice is a principal component for these both movies.
Okay. So you as an ML scientist will decide what type of features what type of characteristic you want to define for the movie. And obviously, we just went with one dimensions, but in practice, you will be defining a multi-dimension embedding a space to have all of these objects there. Then you have different methods of approaching it. You can have people to hand annotate it, or you can have a transformer to basically build this embedding a space. What you are mentioning as principal PCA, you can handle it yourself. You can basically say, hey, these are the features that are important to me and I want to investigate on those. Or you can let the machine to decide. And then you might not have a grasp of what these features are exactly, but then all of the features that matter would be in your embedding space. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
But tell me that.
Yeah.
A kind like suppose I'm a data scientist, I'm making a kind of a recommendation system, and you have watched a shirt in my platform. Now I need to recommend you a Finding Nemo. Uh, I don't need to take like I should not take this kind of a parameter like this movie is being nice, so I'll be giving this kind of a recommendation to that kind of a user. This decision will not be made by me, right?
Obviously, so you have this model that gives you this information. You have a model, you train the matrix, this matrix multiplies by the features of your movie and multiplies by the so one axis of it is the features of the movie and another axis of it is what the user wants.
Yes.
And you put this together, the summation will tell you which movies match with which user.
Okay. This summation will be sent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, go through that course. That was a course. A lot of the courses were a little bit, they just give you an overview of the information, but I really personally like the natural language processing one and the recommendation system one. These two were really in depth in the math. Took me a while to figure out what they are doing, and they were really interesting. So shout out to Google for giving it for free to everybody. One thing that I want to add, if you do not want to take the labs, all of this content are available for free. Like you do not need any credit to just watch the video. And the videos, in my opinion, they carry a lot of information. And if you don't want the credit of the labs, you just want to follow along the lab and see what is happening, the content is also available. You can just clone from the Google GitHub repository and all of the labs are available.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like even if you just discover that there's the repo, like that repo has all the labs in it for all of them. They moved to a mono repo. So instead of having hundreds of repos for each programming language and each product where there was like some code samples, all of it is in there now. So
Checking it out takes 90 seconds.
yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, it's you notice it in the labs. Like when you watch the video, the guy's like, oh, I'll just check out the examples repo now. It's like, boop. And then I'm like, check out the examples repo. And I'm like, let me go make some tea while I wait for the examples repo to check out. And then that was when I realized that all these people who make a lot of videos, they have like a thing that just like removes the boring parts.
Yes.
Like, no wonder it went so quick. It wasn't like real time.
So what you just to nail that point home, when you at some point your skills boost access that's come through this program will end, so you may not have access to the free labs anymore, but you still have the content. You can get the lab source code from the GitHub repo, and you also can spin up a free trial account on Google for $300 for 90 days, I think it is now.
Yes.
So you can always use that. I mean, I think most of the labs can be done for $10 or less for each one, even with ML.
Um,
Not sure what the cost would be for some of
each of
some
labs is
training
like
runs a lot.
five credits,
Five
which,
credits. But
which
that
equal
doesn't
to
mean-
$5.
That doesn't translate to $5 on your Google account. What you did it on the trial account would be different. So who knows? But it shouldn't be like huge amount of money if you
Sure.
remember to turn things off when you're done. That's the thing. In the labs, of course, on Skills Boost and Quick Labs, once you're done, it poof goes away and they take care of all the cleanup. If you're doing it on your own, you have to turn everything off yourself.
So true.
We, I think, have heavily hyped the Cloud Skills Boost Champion, whatever
Yes.
the thing is called.
Innovator Plus.
Innovator Plus.
Oh yeah,
in
that's
this.
another way to go.
While we understand that $300 is a lot for anyone, if you're going to be doing this stuff a lot, especially if you're going to earn a cert, it turns out to be worth it. The other pitch I will make, since I'm in that mode right now, is today is the last day to register for Google Cloud Next if you want to pay the inexpensive, amazing, the
early bird rate.
early bird rate, which is only $900.
It's $8.99.
So, I'm sorry, I overestimated it. It's $8.99. I don't even think they charge tax if I remember correctly. So you're right. It's just like $8.99, not $900. But there is a $700 discount if you buy it today. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'll buy it, but I'll wait until July. Well, that's going to cost you $700. Literally waiting until midnight will cost you $700. So if you're going to do it, today's probably the best day to do it. And I will say that yesterday after I purchased my ticket, and then I got an invite to go speak at Next. So now apparently my flight will be covered for, hopefully. But I was like, I bought my flight and then I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm paying for it all myself this year. And then they were like, do you want to come speak? And I was like, are you covering my travel? So that'll be exciting. Although I will set the expectations. It's a 10-minute lightning talk in the Champion Innovators Lounge. So it's not like any kind of keynote
You are an expert. Everybody.
speech or whatever. And I have now a couple of months to figure out how to fill 10 minutes, which seems like something I could probably
That's
do.
a long time.
I mean, I did it here like twice already today. So that's the pitch for Google Cloud Next.
We have the legionnaire with us who goes to talk for all of the champions.
So how much more do you have today?
I have all of the questions to go through,
Okay.
but I try to be quick. Am I too late?
No, I'm just seeing where we are in the meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, that's what we're here for.
Just as a point, I
He
started.
was worried it was about to end. He was thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the night tonight?
No, we have.
And he was hoping that there was like a little more left before he has to leave. So
And I have a
luckily,
few.
there
Thank you. That's correct.
I have an announcement also to make, so stay tuned.
Actually, I have a surprise at the end also.
Uh-oh.
I love surprise.
Uh-oh.
That's why I was asking.
Okay, now that we are talking about surprises, I'm like, okay, let's just go through them and get to the surprise. Okay, let's back here. I'm just going to go through everything quickly, promise that we discussed through these past couple of weeks. Week 2, what did we do? We did ML problem framing and ML solution architecture. What did that mean? ML problem framing was, okay, I, as a ML scientist, ML engineer, will go to the business people and see what is the problem that they are trying to solve and how I can have an ML solution to make it automated, make it accessible, make it scalable, be like so quick to handle it. At the same time, I know all of the risks associated with doing it, so I have it in back of my mind that if I'm going to go offering an ML solution, I don't want to have bias. I wanted to have a fair system. I want to be able to explain what is happening. I have this interesting method of integrated gradient to go through them and say, hey, this is the reason that my model does not want to give you a loan. It's not because of like this or that. It's totally objective based on data. We discussed how to make sure that data is balanced, how to make sure that the data is fair. We also discuss about ML solution architecture. So again, I'm an ML scientist. I know what I want to make. At the same time, I need to know what are my resources. This is important because as Norbert and our other GDEs mentioned, this doesn't make sense right now to go and buy a GPU for every problem that you are trying to solve. Google gives you a lot of them, but at the same time, Google gives you a lot of different type of platform to work with. So you are not essentially always required to have a gigantic TPU. Maybe you just need to use, I don't know, BARD or let's say BigQuery or anything else. With that being said, BARD is accessible as Maker Suite for you right now, and generative AI is also accessible, so check it out. Okay, week 3. I was like excited saying it in Vertex AI, so I'm just saying it. Anyway, week 3. Data forever and the eternity data. Preparation and processing. If you want to take one thing from this whole 6 session, remember that data is the whole thing that you are going to work on as an ML scientist. It's not fancy, it's messy, it makes you want to bang your head to the wall, but this is what it is. Data ingestion, understand how you can get this data, go through the data, explore the data, familiarize yourself with the data, and design data pipeline, which is basically how quickly you can get data from the source to where you want to build it so quickly. And also feature engineering. We discussed different methods of feature engineering, where we need embedding, where we need scaling, where we need min-max, why we need any of them, where should we use one-hot encoding, when handle one-hot encoding and sparsity that it causes. So all of those things. And then we also discussed TF data validation, how it handles data, schema, drift. So remember all of those. Week 4, the fancy part, ML engineer, build a model, train a model, test a model, scale a model. What type of models we dealt with? When to use, when you use the regression. Regression is when we want to say, hey, this is a number that I want to predict. When to use classifier. What type of classifier? Are they just binary and I want a binary cross entropy, or this is categorical cross entropy and I have multiple labels to go for? When I do forecasting, what I do when I have images, convolutional neural network, when I have natural language processing, why I cannot use recurrent neural network, LSTM, why LSTM is better, why I'm using a newer version of LSTM right now, gradient vanishing, what happens to gradient vanishing, explosion of gradient, all those sort of things. training a model, which we discussed about hyperparameter tuning and bringing everything inside the model as lambda layers to make sure that when we are employing this model, it would work as we are expecting it, because a lot of the challenges comes from when we are developing and deploying, because there are discrepancy between the way that we are preparing the data. Always test the model. We have training, validation, and testing. Never mix your data validation with training unless you want to do cross validation. That's a different story. That's when you do not have enough of data. Test, test, test. Have a test set which is representation of all of your training data and all of your real world data. If you have a curated test data set, then you mess up in real world. And to be able to scale the model for serving, so as I mentioned, you want to have everything inside the model, so it's a package that you provide it to your customer, and they do not need to worry about how to handle the data. Okay, week 5, ML pipeline automation. So now everything is done. We know what we want to, how we want to get the data, how we want to handle the data and feature engineering, what type of model we are using, and how we are deploying it. Now we want to glue everything together to be able to scale it. We also mentioned that MLOps comes from DevOps. DevOps is continuous integration and continuous development and deployment, but we as ML engineer, we require to know about continuous training. Continuous integration and continuous development are when you want to modify or add features and characteristics. But because we are dealing with data, you need to do continuous training to make sure that the data that your model has been introduced to is still a representation of the common data that is available in the reality. So if your recommendation system, let's say to the point that you've made to recommendation system, is recommending movies, and now this amazing movie is out right now which changed the taste of the community, you need to be able to adapt your model with this new taste to have a good model which doesn't miss. And always monitor the data, always monitor the model. Things happens, there are bias happens. There is no way that you can guarantee that a model doesn't do something like a stupid, but if you constantly monitor, you can catch them fast and catch them easily, and then integrate those data, make sure that you have representation of this new data in your model, be able to troubleshoot and also tune it for further serving. With that being said, now we are ready for Kahoot. So the Kahoot today has the questions from everything that we discussed, and all of the questions have been explained once.
So if people paid attention, they might do well.
Yes.
Perfect.
Man, you guys are
If
hard.
you have built into this,
We were supposed to pay
LLM.
attention during these sessions. So what do we have for the Kahoot today for the winners?
What's for our contestants?
What do we have for our contestants? Do you have
We have books. Is that part
books
of
you
it?
were planning to give away for
Well,
people who haven't
we
gotten
have
one yet?
7 books. and I think a lot of people
You have
already
some notebooks I saw.
Notebooks and bags.
Okay, I do have 2 items then that I'll add to the mix.
stickers.
We have a Google I/O
Ooh.
app.
Imported from
This is-
Florida.
This is not the Google I/O Connect hat from the very, very recent event in Florida. This is from the much earlier event that was at least 2 weeks ago in California, the actual Google I/O. And then
Extremely
I
rare- extremely
don't
rare
remember
collector's items.
which one this came from. I think this was also from. It was from NA Connect. Okay, great. This had socks in it, which I took. I took the socks, so don't open this and expect to find any GDG socks in it. This I think is a recycled material, if I'm not mistaken. Because why would they make it look like that if it wasn't recycled? But it is it has the amazing GDG logo logo, which when we're in photos, we do this usually.
Money, swag.
The logo.
Google merch tends to come and go, so you'll never see this again, probably.
Yeah, well, it's certainly the hat because it has the IO logo.
Can you turn off the
This is the first time I've ever
the
seen
sound of the
this,
Kahoot?
laptop bag.
I need to point out that Lucas is really generous to bring the items that he's been awarded.
Yeah, the music is
as
drowning
a
out the
PI,
talk.
So shout out to him.
Look, I can't afford the storage unit that I would need to hold all this stuff, so I have to just like give it away at these events.
Indeed.
So you all benefit from that. When we were preparing, we haven't even mentioned. We
I
haven't
said
even mentioned.
announcement.
Oh,
I
is
said
that the
announcement.
announcement? Oh man, I thought it was something I didn't even know
It's on
about.
my list.
Okay, good. But one of our co-organizer, not for the Cloud Boston, but in what I'm now affectionately calling the Greater Boston, the GDG community, which includes our group, it includes GDG Boston Android, and it includes GDG Lawrence, which is not immediately right here in town, but is in the Greater Boston area, I would say. So the three of us are working on something which you're going to talk about briefly, but Roman, he had to come over to my house to get 3 large crates full of swag to just like take it off my hands because I didn't have room for all of it. So we hope to have some.
It's because you had to clear out your storeroom so that you could take your exam.
I took my exam in my
I
office.
did empty out the whole spare room.
But do you want to talk about that first before we do the quiz, or do you want to talk about the
We
quiz?
can do it right now, but we are waiting for people. So we have finally, everything is confirmed. We have the amazing IO extended event, not next Friday, but the Friday after that, Friday, June 16th. It will be
Not
us.
this Friday.
Not-
Today's Wednesday. Not this Friday.
I cannot
Not
count.
next Friday. But the following Friday. So it's just a little bit more than 2 weeks away from today.
That's for me to panic more.
Exactly. It's 3 Fridays from today. But
June
it's
16th.
2 weeks. Let's say 2 weeks from today. June 16th, Friday.
June 16th. And stay tuned. Google offered to host us, so we will be hosted at Google Cambridge office.
Yes. The signups are open as of yesterday. So you're the first people to hear about this in person, but some people may have seen it if they follow me on LinkedIn. We have a limited capacity.
Anyone
and
hear
I'll
me?
tell you, it's not because the Google office is so tiny that they can't hold it.
They
It's
can't hear
because
us.
for every 10 of you folks who come, and myself included, I'm one of
Can
the
anyone
people,
hear me? Hello?
we need at least one
I
Google
hear
you.
to be present to
I
mind
hear you,
us
but
and
they
make sure
cannot
that we
hear us.
behave ourselves. So basically, the
Hello?
first 10 people that sign up for this event, I have to call in one
Hello?
invitation, one of my debts to somebody, and be like, hey, remember you said you owed me a thing? Well, here's the time you have to come hang out and watch 10 of my attendees and myself. And then for every 10 more people, I have to call in another favor with somebody to get them to come watch us. So this is exclusive event. We hope all of you will be there in person. And honestly, I'm not kidding so much about what the policy is, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and, if we hit the limit, we're gonna try and find another Googler to add so we can bring in 10 more people, and we'll just keep doing that until we get as many people as possible into this event.
We will be having 3 different tracks from expert in the field, people who really attended I/O who want to share. Our 3 tracks are web, Android, and cloud. And ML is a part baby of the
ML,
cloud.
let's just say, in the old days, we used to say that ML, we'd probably, at least one of the talks would probably have some ML in it, so there's always ML. And I think pretty much this time, you can imagine that there's just going to be a little ML woven through all of it. Where
I
it's like,
thought that it's not.
ML is not one of the tracks because it's all the tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for saying.
But the other thing I'll mention, which might actually be news too, because we haven't caught up on this today, we will still have 3 tracks in that. The audience we want to welcome together for the event is going to be the Android community, and the web community, and the cloud community. We're all going to get together. We may end up just having a single room and so we may all be together.
That's news to me.
Yeah, it's our choice, just because literally like the technicalities about how to get people from one room to another are also challenging, and it might just be more challenging than it's worth dealing with. So, but the point about this is more about the community aspect, because I've been harping anyone who was arrived early and heard me talking about it in the kitchen. Yes, we are a community because we want to talk about tech stuff, but that's just sort of a means to an end of like being a community. And so bringing our local GDGs together to have an event is like sort of top of mind for us, and the fact that we will have tech talks there is like a close like second place in line for us. So and we're still just working out the details. Like I said, Roy, I didn't even hear about this until I'm saying it. We might consolidate into one room, but still address all the same breadth of content. And we might do like some lightning talks in the outside. If any of you have been to the Google office, there's like a room that's kind of an auditorium style room, and then there's like a space outside where they can do like drinks or whatever. We lost the machine. So we may do some lightning talks out there, so it's a little more, a little closer and less like you're sitting 10 rows back with the speaker. You might just be standing together at a table or something. We're still working out some of the details. And, we were going to have potentially like 9 speaker slots. If we consolidate into one room, we'll probably have a fewer number of speaker slots, but we still don't have all of them. So if any of you want to propose a talk, we will post the session. Oh, I'm not even hearing it. Oh, they're hearing me and the Kahoot at the same time.
Good.
Super.
There's a speaker at the bottom.
Well, I have a pretty loud voice as it is, so I could probably battle with Kahoot if I had to.
Oh, you got it? Okay. Oh, you got it. Okay, sorry. That might show like a no speaker.
Sorry about that, guys.
We good to go here? We ready to start?
Okay, yeah, so the message there, in case you
You
didn't
just
get it.
need to pay attention to the remote people.
Get you all in, and it's going to be super exciting, and you'll meet some of the people from the Android community and so forth. And then boom, let's do this.
So who wants a corduroy IO hat or a GDG sleeve?
Yep.
Let's find out. You want to hit start?
One of these looks like maybe 12 people, 20 people. One of these 20 people wants one for sure. 21 now.
Do we have facility to post the stuff?
What's Postmate?
Like to ship the stuff?
We can make it work.
Oh, but
Because I want to say, because all of these questions have been discussed before, maybe people who are not here can explain them and get some of the notebooks.
well, let's just be fair here.
Question.
We love the people who are
Okay, we
online.
got 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Let's do this question.
Yes. You need to build an object detection model for a small startup company to identify if and where the company's logo appears in an image. You were given a large repository of images, some with logos and some without. These images are not yet labeled. You need to label those pictures and then train and deploy the model. What should you do? Red. Use Google Cloud Data Labeling Service to label your data. Use AutoML object detection to train and deploy the model. Blue. Use Vision API to detect and identify logos in the picture and use it as a label. Use AI platform to build and train a convolutional neural network. Yellow. Create 2 folders, one where the logos appear and one where it doesn't. Manually place images in each folder. Use AI platform to build and train a CNN. Green, create 2 folders, one where the logo appears and one where it doesn't. Manually place images in each folder. Use AI platform to build and train a real-time object detection model. 16 more seconds. I wanted to say that if people who are not here but are within the United States, I know you hate me for saying that.
I don't hate you.
But maybe they can explain the question and we can ship some of those to them.
I literally heard you just volunteer to take care of all the shipping aspects, is what I heard.
That's what I heard. I heard the same thing.
Because what I was going to say is that we love these people and we welcome them, but there's just certain things that are much more difficult to do. And so for us to ship this stuff turns out to be much more challenging than to
Like I
provide
said,
it
if
in
it's
person.
continental, I'll take care of it. I think we have it in the budget. If it's international, I think that's too much work.
Okay, so we will allow in this for the final event today in this series. Winners can come from in the room or online as long as their shipping address is in the continental United States. You heard it from Joe. It's on the recording. So
Thank you.
there you have
May
it.
not be repeated.
So everyone is eligible today for one of the fancy items that we have here.
Okay. So next question. It's going to be 10 questions, so stay tuned.
Nice work, Hugo.
Here or not here?
We don't really need to know where everyone
Yes.
is
can.
until the end.
Okay, next question. Question number 2. Drum roll, please. You work for a textile manufacturer and have been asked to build a model to detect and classify fabric defects. You train the ML model with high recall based on high resolution images taken at the end of the production line. You want quality control inspector to gain trust in your model. Which techniques should you use to understand the rationale of your classifier? Use K-fold cross-validation to understand how the model performs on different test datasets. It was red. Blue. Use the integrated gradient method to efficiently compute feature attribution of each predicted image. Yellow. Use PCA to reduce the original feature set to a smaller set or easily understood features. Green. Use K-mean clustering to group similar images together and calculate the Davis-Baldwin index to evaluate the separation between clusters. 30 more seconds. Yay. So 7 people said the right one. And I'm sorry for all of the 8 who put green. That was a really challenging concept. I feel bad. I genuinely didn't mean to make these questions like hard or anything. So shout out to Octopus and Anna. And Hugo is fallen, so.
Oh, how
It's
quickly
still-
we
it's still
fall,
early.
Hugo.
It's still early in the game.
Question 3. You need to write a generic test to verify whether deep neural network module automatically released by your team has a sufficient number of parameters to learn the task for which they were built. What should you do? Train the model for a few iterations and check for non-values. Train the model for a few iterations and verify that its loss is constant. Train a simple linear model and determine if the DNN model outperforms. Train the model with no regularization and verify that the loss function is close to 0. 55 seconds, you go. How many people are participants? I didn't check that.
Quite a few.
20?
Mhm.
8 more.
20 in the Kahoot, yeah. Joe, did you get some photos?
Yeah. We didn't have
I
photos
think
last
you did.
time.
He does it. He's very he just like speaks over and does it.
Yeah.
We got photos. We got photos.
Okay.
18, 19, 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Go.
Everyone has an answer.
Yay! We have the majority choosing the right answer.
Oh, good.
This is great.
Makes me so happy.
So is Octopus still going to be in the top?
Yes.
That was the question.
Oh, Octopus is on fire.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Look at that.
Octopus,
That's a
Anna,
solid lead right there.
Yusuf. Good job, you guys. And Yusuf has been coming up, so good job. Next question. Question number 4. Your team is using a TF Inception V3 CNN model pre-trained on ImageNet for an image classification prediction challenge on 10,000 images. You will use AI platform to perform the model training. What TF distribution strategy and AI platform training job configuration would you use to train the model and optimize for wall clock time? Default strategy, custom tier with a single master node and 4 V100. One device strategy, custom tier, 4 V100. One device strategy, custom tier, single master, 8 V100. Or mirror strategy, custom tier, single master node, and 4 V100 GPUs. Which one, you guys? For the more.
Well, I think it should be a custom tier with a single master node is what I'm thinking.
Close something so my emails and text messages stop appearing.
My stepdad just sent a text, but it's not very important.
It doesn't need to be on the recording necessarily.
I think you saw it there. Yeah.
Where's he at? Is that a normal thing? I mean, should we be worried?
Nashville?
Okay, so it's probably normal. It's not like he was in the middle of like Dallas and like a bear showed up in the front door.
Okay, so 8 people, the majority gave us the right answer. And let's see the list.
I don't know. Can they catch octopus? Oh, Anna is going to catch octopus, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to get close. And I shout out to you guys who like standing on top and not shaking. So good job. Because everybody else is like changing, but they
It's a close race for third.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, really. Quick note again that it also depends on how quick you choose the answer. So trust your
But also,
feeling.
I mean, we have way more questions than usual this time, right?
Yes.
How many questions total?
10.
Okay, so I mean, we're not even halfway there yet. You know, it could be that Octopus has to go pick up some food delivery. This is like 3 questions and then completely out of the race at that point.
True. Octopus, if you are listening, don't go for the food right now.
Not while you're still in the lead.
Okay, question number 5. You work for a maintenance company and have built and trained a deep learning model that identifies defects based on thermal images of underground electric cable. Your dataset contains 10,000 images, 100 of which contain visible defect. How should you evaluate the performance of the model on test dataset? Calculate the AUC value, calculate the number of true positive results predicted by the model, calculate the fraction of images predicted by the model to have a visible defect, calculate the cosine similarity to compare the model performance on test dataset to the model performance on the training dataset. 50 more seconds and 12 already answered. So be quick to get the highest score.
All right, the people who are like, let me just think about it for a while.
Yeah, that's
and then I'll
usually-
put my answer in the last second. They don't even get credit for that answer because it's worth no points.
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta know the rules of the game that you're playing. You know what I'm saying?
$18, 15 more seconds.
I wonder what would happen if nobody could enter an answer until we had finished reading the answer aloud. So that way, like, you wouldn't have an advantage just because you're faster at reading.
I would really love that.
Well, we need to get a new system because we
Yeah.
didn't seem like the right thing.
Yeah, totally. Just to add it here, for people who English is not their mother tongue, I also think that Google should consider something. I know some of the other like companies they consider for the exams. If English is not your mother tongue, they give you extra time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
I
haven't
mean,
done.
most standardized exams at least have like legally obligated accommodations for like visual impairment and a few other things, but they're not great about covering people with other languages. Like
That's
the Google,
that's
you tried
a-
it. The Google one didn't offer.
I know Google doesn't offer. It's 2 hours regardless, which is a challenge.
Yeah, it's Japanese version, things like that.
Right, but they don't have a thing where you can take 3 hours because you're struggling with the language,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
But like with the SATs, for example, that
Yeah.
sort of thing exists.
Other tests have got some extra time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Halfway through.
you have the majority answering the right.
Is Octopus up there?
Yes, let's see.
Oh
Oh my
What
god, they
happened?
changed.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to Anna.
It's an upset. That's what that is. Now, what could we have calculated with machine learning what the odds would have been of Octopus getting unseated here? How much data would we have needed in
It's
order?
not a necessarily repeatable type of question.
Doesn't mean you can't attempt to calculate it with a model.
Maybe some Monte Carlo.
Yeah, it's more of a Markov thing.
Okay, next question. And we are halfway done. You work for a large financial institution that is planning to use Dialogflow to create a chatbot for the company's mobile app. You have reviewed all chat logs and tagged each conversation for the intent based on each customer's stated intention for contacting customer service. About 70% of customer inquiries are simple requests that are solved within 10 intents. The remaining 30% of inquiries require much longer and more complicated requests. Which intents should you automate first? Automate a blend of shortest and longest intent to be representative of all intents. Automate the more complicated requests first because those require more of the agent's time. Automate the 10 intents that cover 70% of the requests so that live agents can handle the more complicated requests. Automate intents in place where common words such as payment only appear once to avoid confusing the software. 30 more seconds, and I think we have 7 or 6 other people to answer. Yay!
That's what I'm
Best
talking
question
about.
so far.
These people must have been getting taught this material from someone who knows their stuff, right?
I exactly remember this is the question that you explained. Because Dialogflow is from the time for an earlier time.
An earlier time.
Come on, Octopus. I
Oh.
need a hero. No, Octopus.
Oh my gosh. I think maybe actually they did go out and get food when they said that.
No.
Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Anna for staying on the top.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Question number 7. You work for a gaming company that develops and manages a popular massive multiplayer online game. The game's environment is open-ended and a large number of positions and moves can be taken by a player. Your team has developed an ML model with TensorFlow that predicts the next move of each player. Edge deployment is not possible, but low latency service is required. How should you configure the deployment? Use a cloud TPU to optimize model training. Use AI platform prediction with NVIDIA GPU to make real-time prediction. Use AI platform prediction with a high CPU machine type to get a batch prediction for player. Use AI platform prediction with a high memory machine type to get a batch prediction for player. Shout out to the 12 who answered. 40 more seconds for the remaining players.
from last session.
I think so.
I think so.
They're just, and they're not in like a specific order, like starting with week 1 and then week 2.
They're all repeats. Though, right?
No, they
Correct.
don't.
Intentionally so, right?
They are from the previous session, but this time I think the Kahoot is right.
like on a Google quiz now, they always change the order of the questions and also the order of the answers on each question. And they didn't used to do that.
Yeah, they definitely do that for the
They're
quizzes.
scrambling
I mean, the thing is that it used, like if you go back far enough, like all the quizzes were just sequential. And then when someone was like, if you're trying to get people's weighted preference, like putting everyone in the same order is not a good way. Like randomly ordering them is better. So now, like even Google Forms just has that as a button.
Yeah.
You just say like,
Oh, I see.
do it in no order, and then
Right.
each person gets a random order.
Yeah. Well, it's a better way to do it.
And so now that it's a feature, if your goal is to get the kind of data where you don't want it to be influenced by the order, then you just like check that box, and it's really
Most
good.
people get
With the exams, of course they do it, because like if you were trying to like get all the exam questions to make a cheat thing, you know, you'd be able to say, okay, I have the first 5 questions memorized. Now I'll go take the exam again and I'll memorize the next 5 questions. It's much harder to do it if they're in a different order every time. You don't know. And also the other thing about the Google exam, not only is it randomly ordered, but the pool of questions that exist is much bigger than the pool on your exam.
Right.
And so let's say like the pool has 200 questions, but your exam has 50, and you get a random 50. So I could take it 3 times, and each time not necessarily see the same question.
I do love how the quizzes on Cloud Skills, you see that sometimes they randomize it. So the first selection is all of the above, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Should say
Yeah.
all of the others.
There's a lot of times in the Cloud Skills boost where I'm like, I should send feedback about this. And then I'm like, if I did that every single time I saw that, I would probably just never finish any of the labs.
Yeah.
So I do it sometimes when it's like egregious, and when the other person won't be able to figure it out, then I do it.
Yeah.
So fun question. Can Anna be caught? Is it possible?
Anna has a solid lead now. We have a total of 3 questions left.
Let's see.
It is
It's
possible.
not over yet.
Anna could miss one and then maybe be a little slow on one, and there's another person who could just be like boom
Fall
boom.
asleep.
Yep.
Ain't over till it's over.
All right.
Anna, stay on top. You can do it and raise the flag for women. I don't know what is the right expression.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know.
Raise the bar.
Sure.
Okay, question number 8.
Ocho.
You work for a large retailer. You want to use ML to forecast future sales, leveraging 10 years of historical sales data. The historical data is stored in cloud storage in Apr format. You want to rapidly experiment with all the available data. You should use how should you build and train your model for the sales forecast? Load data into BigQuery and use the ARIMA model type on BigQuery ML. Convert the data into CSV format and create a regression model on AutoML. Convert the data into TF records and create an RNN model on TF on AI platform notebooks. Convert and refactor the data into CSV format and use built-in XGBoost algorithm on AI platform training. 40 more minutes and I think 8 more people to answer.
Seconds. You said
Yes.
minutes.
Sorry,
Oh,
thank
man.
you.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Just sitting here for 40 minutes waiting for like the last 2 people.
Truth being
Like
told,
call on the phone.
I'm like genuinely living off coffee since we are back because I'm like trying to finish everything. So I'm amazed by myself. That was the first mistake that I made today. Or maybe you didn't notice if I said
First
something.
one we noticed.
Yeah, first one that you noticed.
Right. Octopus. You can do this.
Shout out for
Always going for the underdog.
Come on,
huh?
come on.
Anna. Yay!
Octopus can do it. Come on, Octopus.
Women take maker, we stand by women.
You don't know anyone's gender on that list.
That's true.
Anybody-
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be.
An octopus could be either gender, as far as I understand.
That's Okay. I take back what I said. I have respect and love for everybody, regardless of any type of characteristic that one can be defined with. Love you all.
Okay. Okay, this
Two
is
more,
one
two
of
more.
2 questions that we have left.
You are an ML engineering at a media company. You want to use ML to analyze video content, identify objects, and alert user if there is an inappropriate content. Which Google Cloud products should you use to build this product? PubSub, Cloud Function, Cloud Vision API. PubSub, Cloud IoT, Data Flow, Cloud Vision API, Cloud Logging. PubSub, Cloud Function, Video Intelligence API, Cloud Logging. PubSub, Cloud Function, AutoML, Video Intelligence, Cloud Logging.
I think you should use PubSub.
Let's use PubSub. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's like it feels like maybe cloud logging for some reason.
True.
That's when I feel like we gave too much time on this one.
You have actually.
So I think if I were using just taking this question with my testing hat on, and if I didn't know anything about Google Cloud, I would agree with what everyone said that the answer has PubSub in it. It also, just even from the names, like there's a Vision API and a Video Intelligence API. If the Video Intelligence API exists, and if it's not like a red herring that they made up, and they mentioned it twice, I think, then that seems like probably the one that would do the video stuff versus the Vision API. And so here, I potentially don't even know the names of these products, but I'm like pretty much getting towards the right answer.
Did you get the right answer?
Did Anna get the
I
right?
eliminated the incorrect
2
answers.
rows.
Yes.
Yay!
Beautiful.
Okay, now I cannot even shout out for
200.
I don't anymore.
Fire. One more question to
Roast that
go.
octopus.
Last question,
Okay,
guys.
Here we go. Fingers ready. Let's go.
Last
Who
one.
wants the hat?
You work on a team where the process for deploying a model into production starts with data science training different version of a model in a Kubeflow pipeline. The workflow then stores the new model artifact into the corresponding cloud storage bucket. You need to build the next step of the pipeline after submitted model is ready to be tested and deployed in production on AI platform. How should you configure the architecture before deploying the model to production? Deploy model in test environment, evaluate and test it, and then create the new AI platform model version. Validate the model, then deploy it, then create new AI platform. Create new AI platform, then evaluate it, then deploy it. Create a new AI platform, deploy it, and then evaluate it.
Good. It only took you 60 seconds to read the budget.
This one was timed more appropriate.
It's a funny thing about the exam, because like just to read the exam end to end would probably take like 2/3 of the time.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a very long question.
The only thing that annoys us is that you can't take scratch notes. Because if this was like on paper, you like cross this one out, cross that one out.
Oh yeah.
But like in
All
my
you can
head-
do is flag it. Like I'm gonna come back to this.
But if you blink a lot or twiddle your fingers, they're gonna be, what are you doing?
Who
You're just sitting in code
are
display.
you signaling to?
You sneeze too many times.
If you go in center though, they give you paper and pencil. If you do it at home,
Oh, really?
you cannot have paper and pencil at home.
Yeah, because they only need to have paper that has something written on it already.
But when at the center, they give you the paper and they know it's blank.
Gotcha. All right, so here we go. Who did it?
Okay, let's see.
This was a tough question.
All right, for the whole ball of wax.
Oh.
Slava.
Oh, yes.
Ethan.
Whoa.
Okay, come on. Come on, octopus.
Anna. Okay, that's great.